Why you wake up at 2, 3, or 4 a.m. and can't fall back to sleep. This is quiz question 9 explained from the 1-minute insulin resistance quiz. This is part of the Foundation series, and if you're interested in finding out more, take the quiz. The link is in the description below. And do me a favor and don't forget to like, subscribe, and share with your friends, and hit the bell button. It really does help me to bring you more videos. So let's get started. I'm Dr. Kim, a board-certified naturopathic doctor, and I've been in clinical practice for over 40 years. Nighttime waking, cortisol spikes, blood sugar drops at night. Is this you? It's 2:47 a.m. You're wide awake with no alarm and no noise. Nothing woke you, and yet here you are, completely alert, mind already running, and you know from experience that falling back asleep is going to take you a long time. Maybe you won't fall back to sleep at all. This happens 3, 4, or 5 nights a week. You've tried everything. No screens before bed, melatonin, magnesium. You've lowered your room temperature and used blackout curtains. And you still wake up at the same time every night like clockwork. What if I told you this isn't a sleep disorder? What if the reason you're waking up at 2 or 3 or 4 in the morning has nothing to do with your bedroom environment and everything to do with what's happening with your blood sugar and cortisol while you sleep? This video covers question 9 of my free 1-minute insulin resistance quiz. I often wake up between 2 and 4 a.m. and have trouble falling back to sleep. Now let's talk about what's actually waking you up. The 2 to 4 a.m. window is not random. In traditional Chinese medicine, it's associated with the liver. In functional medicine, it's associated with something very specific, a blood sugar drop and a cortisol response that follows it. And the two explanations are actually connected in ways that are fascinating. So let me walk you through exactly what's happening during that window and why insulin resistance is so often the underlying driver. Here's what's happening physiologically during the night in someone with insulin resistance. When you go to sleep, your blood sugar gradually drops as your body uses glucose overnight for maintenance and repair. In a healthy metabolic system, the liver smoothly releases stored glucose, a process called glycogenolysis, to keep blood sugar stable through the night. Insulin stays low, and the process is quiet. You sleep through it completely. But in insulin resistance, this overnight regulation is disrupted in 2 important ways. First, during the evening hours, if you had a meal that drove a significant insulin response, that insulin may still be elevated when you go to sleep. That elevated insulin continues suppressing blood sugar through the early part of the night. By 2 to 3 a.m., roughly 4 to 6 hours after dinner, for most people, blood sugar has dropped more than it should. Not necessarily into a clinical hypoglycemic range, but low enough that the body treats it as a stress event. The body's response to that blood sugar drop is immediate and automatic. The adrenal glands release cortisol and adrenaline, which are counter-regulatory hormones, whose job is to raise blood sugar back up by stimulating the liver to release glucose. Cortisol and adrenaline are activating hormones. They are opposite of sleep promoting. And when they surge at 2 or 3 a.m., they pull you out of deep sleep, sometimes into full wakefulness, and sometimes into a lighter, restless state. Your body successfully corrected the blood sugar problem, but the cost was your sleep. Now you'll notice that your mind races. And here's something that resonates with almost everyone who experiences this symptom. When you wake up at 2 or 3 a.m., it's not just that you're awake. Your mind is going. you're thinking about things you haven't thought about all day. Worries, to-do lists, problems that suddenly become urgent, and you can't shut it off. That is not anxiety in the physiological sense. That's cortisol and adrenaline doing exactly what they're designed to do. Cortisol sharpens cognitive alertness, and adrenaline activates the sympathetic nervous system, your fight or flight response. Both are meant to prepare you for action in response to a perceived stress. The stress in this case was a blood sugar drop, but your brain doesn't know that. It just knows the alarm went off, and now it's alert and scanning for threats. The racing mind at 3 a.m. is not a mental health problem, and it's not psychological. It's a metabolic response that has nowhere useful to go in the middle of the night. Now here's the liver connection. I mentioned earlier that in traditional Chinese medicine, the 2 to 4 a.m. window is associated with the liver. And here's why that's more than coincidence. The liver plays a central role in overnight sugar regulation. Between roughly 2 and 4 a.m., the liver naturally goes through a phase of increased metabolic activity, processing, detoxifying, and managing glucose stores. In insulin resistance, the liver is almost always involved. Specifically, the liver becomes insulin resistant itself, meaning it stops responding normally to insulin signal to stop producing glucose while you're sleeping. The result is something called hepatic glucose output. The liver releases glucose even when blood sugar is already adequate. This can actually contribute to elevated fasting blood sugar in the morning, the so-called dawn phenomenon, where blood sugar is higher when you wake up than it was when you went to sleep. If you've checked your blood sugar first thing in the morning and been puzzled by a higher number than expected, this is often why. The liver, the cortisol response, and the blood sugar drop, they're all connected. And insulin resistance is the thread running through all of it. On the functional medicine side, we check function. And for this symptom specifically, here's what I want to see. First, fasting insulin and fasting glucose to calculate your HOMA-IR. If insulin resistance is confirmed, it gives us the metabolic context for everything else. Second, a fasting glucose first thing in the morning before eating or drinking anything. If it's consistently above 90 milligrams per deciliter despite not eating all night, that's a sign of hepatic glucose output and dawn phenomenon, both markers of significant insulin resistance. Third, a 5-point, not a 4-point salivary cortisol test that includes a nighttime or early morning cortisol measurement. Seeing whether cortisol is surging at the wrong time of night is very useful clinically. Fourth, I look at magnesium RBC levels. This is a blood test. Magnesium in RBC red blood cells is essential for both sugar regulation and sleep quality. It's one of the commonly depleted minerals in people with insulin resistance. And low magnesium in red blood cells make both the blood sugar drops and nighttime waking worse. Putting those pieces together gives us a significant functional medicine picture of what's happening between 2 and 4 a.m. and what needs to be addressed to fix it. If this 2 to 4 a.m. waking pattern is familiar, and especially if it's showing up alongside other symptoms on the quiz, I want you to go take the full quiz in the link below this video. Sleep disruption combined with daytime fatigue and afternoon cravings and a growing waistline is a very consistent cluster of symptoms in insulin resistance. Your total score tells me how complete that picture is. I personally respond to everyone who emails me their score, and the link is in the description below. So what is there to do? First, don't eat carbohydrates close to bedtime. A high carbohydrate evening snack or late dinner drives an insulin surge that can set up the overnight blood sugar drop. A small protein snack before bed, nuts, cheese, a hard-boiled egg, is a much better choice if you need something to snack on. Protein stabilizes blood sugar without the insulin spike. Second, consider a magnesium supplement before bed. Magnesium complex is the most bioavailable and sleep-supportive form of magnesium. It supports both blood sugar stability and the nervous system's ability to stay calm overnight. Discuss supplementing with your practitioner, but this is one of the most consistently helpful interventions I've seen for this specific symptom pattern. Third, track the pattern alongside your eating. Note what you ate for dinner and whether you woke up at the usual time. Over a week or two, you'll often see a clear correlation between higher carb evenings and worsening nighttime waking. This pattern is useful clinical information. Fourth, get the right labs: fasting insulin, fasting glucose, fasting morning glucose trend with your HOMA-IR, and 5-point cortisol levels. Bring these specific requests to your doctor, and if they will not draw them, it's worth contacting me for a private draw. It's also worth paying out of pocket to get the information you need. Waking at 2 or 3 a.m., lying there with a racing mind, watching the clock, night after night wears on you in a way that's hard to describe to someone who hasn't experienced it. It affects your entire next day, your patience, your mood, your focus, and your food choices. And when you find it's not insomnia, it's blood sugar, and that blood sugar can be addressed, that knowledge changes everything. Because now you have a target, you have something to work with. Take the quiz below and send me an email with your score. And if you want to sit down and work through your specific situation, the coaching call is in the description below also. Next in the series is question 5, skin tags and darkened skin patches. That one surprises people, but it's one of the most visible external signs that insulin has been elevated for a long time. I'm Dr. Kim, the insulin resistance doctor. Know your numbers and change your future. I'll see you in the next video.